Now we're going to play with the pitch of our jumps and give our players some feedback on how many jumps they have left, but do it audibly. Let's take a look at our player again. I've got the player selected and we're in play mode already running. I've got the audio source kind of expanded here. If I jump, I hear my sound effect, but if I play with this pitch value, listen to how it changes. Much higher, or, oh, that's too low. Can't go down below 0. Let's go with like a 0.2. You can hear that it changes quite drastically. So 1 is the default. And what I'd like to do is go to maybe like a 1.1 or a 1.2 for the second jump. So that we jump, and then the second jump is a little bit higher, saying, hey, this is your last jump, or indicating that. So let's stop playing. My values should reset on the audio source, and we'll open up the player script. In the player script, when we do the jump, right before we play the audio source, we need to set the value of the pitch. So what we're going to do is start with an if statement. We'll say if jumps remaining is greater than 0, so if we still have some more jumps left, then we're going to set the audio source's pitch equal to 1. I got to spell pitch right, but if I spell pitch correctly, there we go, that should work. And we'll say else, so if we don't have more than 0 jumps remaining, we're going to set the audio source pitch, and I don't want to set it equal to 0, but I want to set it equal to something slightly higher, like a 1.2. And I might need to add that F there to indicate that it's a float. So now when we have more jumps remaining, it'll give us that normal sound until we're on our last jump that'll be slightly higher pitched. Let's go try that out. Make sure that you saved and let it reload our code. And we'll play and watch that pitch value in here too, because that's going to change. You're going to notice the pitch value visually changing as we hear the effect when we jump. So we click. So you guys can hear that, right? Sounds good. You've got an actual pitch modification. And this should be enough to really give your players some good indication of what's going on. Now I want to show you something else very cool though. This is something not really related to audio, but something related to if and else statements. You're going to find that this is a scenario that you're doing often where you need to write some code that does one thing if a certain condition is met, and then does something else if that condition's not met. It's very, very common where you have a true or a false value. So if we have extra jumps remaining, we're using a 1. If we don't have extra jumps remaining, we're setting the pitch to a 1.2. Now, the way to do this in a shorter, slightly easier to use syntax is to convert it into what we call a ternary assignment. And I believe I can Alt-Enter. Yep. Turn it into a conditional expression. That's what I was thinking, not a ternary assignment. Conditional expression. We hit enter, and then we get a pitch is equal to, and then we've got a statement here. So let's take a look at what this is doing. It says audio source.pitch is equal to, and then it's not assigning it to jumps remaining greater than 0. That's not what's happening. What's happening is this bit of code is getting checked. So it's saying we're going to assign this pitch to a value of something. First, do a check on this. Is jumps remaining greater than 0? Because if jumps remaining, let's put this in some parentheses real quick, make it even more explicit. If the part in parentheses is true, then use the first value after the question mark. Otherwise, use the value after the colon. That's essentially what this means. It's a shortened down way to write out all of that if statement into a single one-liner. So it'll check this statement here. Doesn't have to be in parentheses, but it can be. I put it in parentheses just to make it easier to read. So if jumps remaining is greater than 0, it'll use a 1. Otherwise, it'll use the value after the colon or a 1.2. Very common way to write code. You're going to see this very often. So it's important that you understand it, see it, and just start writing it. If you start to see a lot of else if statements in your code, look to see if you can turn them into conditional assignments like this. It'll clean things up. It'll be a little bit easier to understand most of the time, and it'll make it so that when you see this in the wild, it's easier for you to kind of grab right away. You're not thinking about it. All right, so with that done, I'm going to save. We're going to jump back into Unity, make sure that we haven't broken anything, that the assignment wasn't backwards and we're not starting with a high pitch and then going to a low pitch or anything. And if that's good, then we'll do our commit. So let's go check it out. We press play. And any second now we should get our game view. And jump. Sounding good. Let's try going on a platform. And now let's try jumping without a double jump. All right, sounds good, looks good. Let's go commit. So I'll go into plastic SCM and I'll say that we added pitch change to double jump and check in.